The sun was harsh that afternoon in Lagos. But what shattered Jonathan had nothing to do with the heat. He stood in the center of his living room, empty. Everything was gone. The TV, the dining table, the couch, even the flower vase he bought during his first wedding anniversary. He stared at the silence, confused. "Amara?" he called. "Mimi? Mara?" No answer. The twins should have been back from school by now, giggling like they always did, fighting over who got to hug Daddy first. But the house was empty. Then he saw it. A white paper lying on the floor near the front door. He bent down, picked it up, and read. "I'm sorry, Jonathan. I had to go. My conscience wouldn't let me stay. I cheated on you. Mimi and Mara are not your daughters. I can't continue living a lie. I'm taking the properties because I suffered with you to build all of it. Please, take care of yourself. Amara." The room spun. He dropped the paper. His legs gave out. He sank to the ground, breathing hard, as if someone had just punched the air out of his lungs. But no, this was worse than a punch. This was a bullet through his chest. "No, no," he whispered, shaking his head, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Not my Amara, not my girls." His mind raced with memories, how she held his hands during their toughest days, how they laughed during the twins' 5th birthday, how she once told him, "Even if we lose everything, I'll never leave you." Now, she was gone, and so were the children he raised like his own. The pain didn't come all at once. It started like a numbness in his chest. Then a storm. He screamed. He smashed the photo frame on the wall. He pulled down the curtains. He wept until there were no more tears. That night, Jonathan sat in the corner of his empty home with just one baggy's old work bag filled with auto repair tools. The tools that built his life. The same tools that now meant nothing to him. And for the next 2 months, that bag was all he had staying at Oshodi under bridge. Dirty, crowded, loud. But it was his home now. Jonathan didn't care about the noise, or the smell, or the people who stared at him with pity. His hair grew wild. His beard tangled like a forest. His clothes were stained and torn. He hadn't changed them in weeks. The once famous automobile engineer, the same man whose garage once fixed the governor's SUV, was now just another shadow among the forgotten. People whispered, "Isn't that Jonathan, the car genius?" Some still tried to talk to him, but he wouldn't answer. He just sat in silence, clutching his tool bag like it was the last piece of his broken heart. What no one knew was this: Jonathan's hands still remembered. His brain still worked. His heart was still good. He had lost everything, but not his skill. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. The Lagos highway was hot, and the air smelled of burnt tires and diesel. Traffic stretched for miles. Honks, yells, sweat. Jonathan walked slowly by the roadside, dragging his bag like a lifeline. Then he saw her. A black Bentley was parked awkwardly on the shoulder, its hazard lights blinking. A young woman, dressed in a clean white blazer and heels, was trying desperately to restart the engine. She looked frustrated, worried. She checked her wristwatch again and again. Her face was covered in sweat, but she still looked elegant. Jonathan watched for a second. Something in him stirred. He stepped forward quietly and spoke. "I can help you fix it." The woman looked up, startled. Before her stood a man who looked like he hadn't bathed in days. His shirt was ripped. His trousers hung loosely on his bony frame. His eyes, though tired, were calm. The woman hesitated. Who are you?" "My name is Jonathan," he replied simply. "I was an automobile engineer. I still am." She blinked. Her mind raced. She had a board meeting in 45 minutes, one that could change everything for her company. She nodded slowly. "If you mess it up, I'll call security." Jonathan didn't reply. He just dropped to his knees, opened his tool bag, and got to work. He checked the engine, touched the battery, tightened a loose cable, and adjusted a few wires. Then he stood up and said, "Try it now." The woman slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and the engine roared to life. Her mouth fell open. "What?" Jonathan dusted his hands and stepped back. She jumped out of the car, stunned. "How did you do that? Who are you really?" Jonathan gave a tired smile. Then he told her everything. He told her about Amara, about the letter, about the twins, about the months of silence, the pain, the shame, about Oshodi Bridge, about losing the will to live. The woman listened, frozen. Her name was Monica Johnson. She didn't say much at first. She just kept staring at him, this broken man who, despite everything, still chose to help a stranger. What Jonathan didn't know was this. Monica was no ordinary woman. She was the CEO of Bright Future Technology Zone of Africa's top tech companies. A billionaire, a genius, a woman raised by one of Nigeria's wealthiest men. Her apps were used by children in rural schools. Her tech helped the police track criminals using call data. She was a powerhouse. And here she was, saved by a homeless man. Her throat tightened. She blinked back tears. "I want to do something for you," she said softly. Before Jonathan could speak, she had already picked up her phone. "Come with me." He hesitated. She smiled gently. "Trust me, this is just the beginning." Jonathan sat quietly in the back seat of the Bentley, his hands resting on his knees. The cool air from the AC felt like a shock to his skin. It had been weeks, no, months since he had felt cold air like this, or sat on anything this soft. Monica glanced at him. He looked lost, a man holding himself together by a thread. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Jonathan nodded slowly, eyes fixed outside the window as the busy streets of Lagos rushed past them. Soon, they turned off the main road, entered a gated estate with armed security, and pulled into a driveway paved with smooth marble stone. The gate slid open automatically, revealing a mansion so large and beautiful it almost didn't feel real. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. Was this where she lived? He stepped out carefully, afraid to touch anything. His worn-out shoes made no sound on the shiny floor. The marble stairs, the fountains, the manicured flower sit felt like walking inside a dream. "Come," Monica said, smiling. "We'll get you cleaned up first." The barber shop smelled of mint and clean towels. Monica sat nearby, watching as the barber carefully trimmed Jonathan's tangled beard, then worked on his overgrown hair. The man in the mirror began to change before her eyes. Gone was the wild, broken stranger from under the bridge. Now, a clean-shaven, sharp-looking man with strong features stared back. His eyes, still tired, had a spark, a memory of who he used to be. After the haircut, Monica handed him a fresh outfit, dark jeans, a crisp blue shirt, black sneakers. Jonathan changed in the restroom. When he stepped out, Monica blinked. He looked completely different. "You clean up nicely," she said, trying not to smile too wide. Jonathan chuckled shyly. "I haven't worn new clothes in months." She drove him back to her mansion, and together they entered the house. The living room was massive. Glass walls stretched to the ceiling, revealing a view of the Lagos skyline. Gold-trimmed furniture, glowing light fixtures, and artwork lined the walls. Monica led him to the guest room larger than any room he had ever lived in. "You can rest here," she said. Jonathan hesitated. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Monica paused at the door, turned to him, and said, "Because you were kind enough to help me today when I needed it most. And I believe no one should be forgotten, just because life broke them." The next morning, Monica took Jonathan to her company's headquarters in Victoria Island. The building stood tall and proud, with tinted glass windows that reflected the sun. Inside, employees moved with purpose, typing, talking, running meetings. Everyone greeted Monica with respect. She was young, but her presence commanded attention. In her private office, Monica handed him a folder. "What's this?" Jonathan asked. "A plan," she replied. "I want to invest in you. We're going to open the best automobile engineering workshop in Lagos, and you'll run it." Jonathan's eyes widened. "You don't have to do this." "I want to," she interrupted. "You didn't ask me for anything, and that says everything about who you are." He looked down at the papers. His hands shook. He hadn't held anything official in months. Monica leaned forward. "I know what it's like to lose someone. I lost my father when I was 16. He believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. I want to do that for someone else now." Jonathan swallowed hard. A knot tightened in his throat. "Thank you," he whispered. She smiled warmly. "You've got work to do, Mr. Jonathan." Over the next few weeks, Monica made arrangements. She brought in lawyers, business developers, and even leased a beautiful space on the mainland. The garage was state-of-the-art brand-new equipment, solar backup, a waiting lounge with Wi-Fi and coffee. Jonathan's name was on the door. People were curious at first. Who was this quiet, serious man opening a new auto center? But soon, whispers turned into praises. "This guy fixed my Lexus in 15 minutes. He repaired what 5 mechanics couldn't fix. Jonathan, that man is a genius." Within 2 months, J&M Autotech became the most talked-about workshop in Lagos. And Monica, she came every evening, sometimes just to check on him, sometimes just to sit and talk. She would ask about engines, gears, wires, things she had no business knowing. But she liked to listen, and he liked to talk to her. One evening, Monica invited him to the rooftop of her mansion. The sun had dipped below the skyline, and the stars had started to appear. They sat quietly, sipping juice. The wind was gentle. Lagos twinkled below them like a sea of light. "Do you ever think about your daughters?" Monica asked softly. Jonathan nodded. "Every day. I wonder if they still remember me." "You were a good father," she said. "Still are." He turned to look at her. "And you saved me." Monica looked away, embarrassed. "You saved yourself. I just reminded you who you are." The silence grew deep, charged. Monica opened her mouth to say something, but words failed her. Jonathan took a breath. "Monica?" "Yes?" But before he could continue, his phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. He stared at it for a second, then answered. There was silence on the line. Then a shaky voice whispered, "Jonathan, it's me, Amara." His heart stopped. Monica's eyes widened as she watched his face go pale. I need help." Amara's voice trembled. "Please. I have no one else to turn to. The girls, Mimi and Mara, they need you." Jonathan stood frozen, the phone still at his ear. "Where are you?" he asked quietly. Her answer was barely a whisper. "Outside your gate." Jonathan stood by the door, motionless. The phone was still pressed against his ear, even though the call had ended. Outside his gate, his hands trembled slightly. For months, he had dreamed of this moment, feared it, begged for it, and now it was happening. Amara, the woman who tore his world apart, the woman who stole his joy, his daughters, his peace. He turned slowly toward Monica, who was watching him with gentle eyes. "She's outside," he said in a voice that didn't sound like his own. "Amara, with the girls." Without a word, Monica rose from her seat and walked toward the elevator. "Let's go," she said calmly. "I'll come with you." The mansion gates opened slowly, revealing the shadows just beyond the warm pool of light spilling onto the driveway. A weak figure stepped into view barefoot, thin, her wrapper barely tied around her waist. Her eyes were sunken, her lips cracked, her hair untamed. It was Amara. She looked nothing like the woman Jonathan had once loved, the woman who had captivated people with her beauty and grace, the woman strangers used to call Miss Nigeria. That version of Amara was gone. Behind her, clutching each other's hands, were 2 little girls, 7 years old now, Mimi and Mara. Their faces were tired, their clothes dusty, their cheeks streaked with dry tears. But their eyes still held the same light. The moment they saw Jonathan, the silence shattered. "Daddy!" they both screamed. They ran, no hesitation, no fear, just tiny feet slapping against the pavement. Jonathan dropped to his knees and opened his arms, just in time to catch them. They crashed into him, sobbing, holding him tight, their small hands clinging to his shirt like it was the only thing keeping them safe. "I missed you," Mimi cried. "I thought you forgot us," Mara whispered. Jonathan didn't speak. He just held them. His chest rose and fell with shaky breaths. His hands trembled as he stroked their hair. Monica stood a few steps behind, watching silently. Then, slowly, Jonathan raised his head and looked at Amara. She stood with her head bowed, not daring to meet his gaze. "Come inside," he said, surprising even himself. Inside the living room, Monica handed the girls juice and warm food, and led them to a guest room where they could rest. The girls hesitated to leave their father, but he reassured them with a smile and a gentle nod. Then it was just Jonathan, Amara, and Monica in the room. The silence was heavy. Amara sat on the edge of a sofa, her hands trembling. Her once proud shoulders were hunched. She looked like a woman who had carried guilt for far too long. "I didn't come to beg for a second chance," she said softly. "I know I don't deserve it." Jonathan remained silent. "I only want you to know the truth," she continued, her voice shaking. "The man I ran off with, he told me he had proof that the twins weren't yours. He showed me a DNA result." Jonathan's brows furrowed. "It was fake," she said bitterly. "I didn't know until it was too late. After 2 years, he told me the girls weren't his either, that he forged the test to break us apart, to punish me for choosing you over him years ago." Tears slid down her cheeks. "He kicked us out, took the money, left us with nothing. I've been going from place to place, until I remembered you once told me you'd never stop loving the girls, even if the world turned against you." Jonathan leaned back slowly, his jaw clenched. The pain he had buried deep inside, years of betrayal, confusion, loneliness, came rushing back like a wave crashing against the shore. "And the letter?" he asked, his voice low. "You said they weren't mine." "I believed him," she whispered. "I truly did. My guilt ate me alive, and I wanted to punish myself, to vanish and carry the shame." Monica watched from the side, her heart aching for Jonathan. He had finally found his footing again, found peace, found purpose, and now the past had walked right through his front gate. Amara wiped her face with the back of her hand. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know I don't deserve it. I just need help. Not for me, but for them. The girls deserve a future." She looked up at Monica then. "I didn't know you were with someone. I just wanted to see him one last time, to ask if he could help give the girls a better life." Monica didn't speak. She only looked at Jonathan. He rose slowly and walked toward the window, his back to them. The silence stretched on. Then, finally, he turned around. "I will take care of them," he said firmly. "They are my daughters. Nothing will change that." Amara nodded tearfully. "But I cannot bring you back into my life as a wife," he continued. "That door is closed." "I understand." He paused, then reached into his wallet and brought out his checkbook. He wrote quietly, then tore the check and handed it to her. 2 million naira. It's enough to start over. A small business. A place to sleep. Amara stared at the check, her mouth open. "Jonathan, I don't know what to say." "Say thank you," Monica said gently, stepping forward, her voice kind but firm. "And make sure you never make him regret this." Amara stood, held the check close to her chest, and knelt down. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for your kindness." Monica helped her up and opened the door. "You can rest for tonight," she said. "But tomorrow, we'll help you find a place." Amara nodded silently and stepped out. Later that night, Monica found Jonathan sitting alone on the rooftop again. She joined him quietly and placed a glass of juice in front of him. "Are you okay?" she asked. He took a deep breath. "I don't know. It still feels like a dream. But seeing my girls again, it makes everything else fade." Monica smiled. "They love you deeply. That never changed." He turned to look at her. "Thank you, Monica, for helping me even when I had nothing, for giving me space to grow again." She smiled gently, then leaned closer. "There's something I've wanted to say for a long time." He looked at her. She hesitated, then whispered, "I love you, Jonathan." But before she could say anything more, Jonathan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small black box. He opened it slowly, revealing a simple but elegant ring. "I love you even more," he said, "and I want to spend the rest of my life making you proud." Tears welled in Monica's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Jonathan." They embraced tightly, the Lagos skyline twinkling around them like a celebration. But deep in the quiet of the night, another knock was about to shake their world again. The knock was soft at first, barely noticeable. Jonathan and Monica were still on the rooftop, wrapped in the kind of quiet that only follows a deep confession of love. The stars blinked above them, the night air calm and filled with promise. Monica rested her head on Jonathan's shoulder, her hand gently brushing against his. Then the knock came again, more urgent. They both turned their heads toward the stairway, leading back down to the main floor. Jonathan stood up slowly. "I'll check," he said, his voice cautious. He made his way down the spiral stairs, through the hallway, and toward the front door. Monica followed behind, unsure why her heart had started to race again. When Jonathan opened the door, a man stood there, tall, slim, clean-shaven, sharp jaw. He looked like he had money, the kind of person who didn't wait long for answers. He wore a white linen shirt, sleeves rolled, and a gold chain shimmered faintly around his neck. "Good evening," the man said smoothly. "Is Amara here?" Jonathan's heart dropped. Monica stepped forward slowly. "Who are you?" The man smiled without warmth. "My name is Maxwell. I know Amara." "Are you the one she ran away with?" Jonathan asked, his voice low and steady. Maxwell tilted his head slightly. "That's not really important anymore, is it? I just came to make sure she's not spreading lies." Monica narrowed her eyes. "Lies?" "Yes," Maxwell said casually. "She's been walking around telling people I faked a DNA test, that I took her money and left her with nothing. None of that is true. She's just bitter because things didn't work out." Jonathan took a step forward, his jaw tightening. "You destroyed her. You lied to her. You took her away from her family. And now you want to rewrite the story?" Maxwell chuckled. "She made her own choices. Don't make me the villain." "You are the villain," Monica said sharply, "and you're not welcome here." Maxwell held up his hands. "Relax. I'm not here to start drama. I just wanted to be sure she doesn't drag my name through the mud." Just then, Amara appeared at the end of the hallway, holding Mimi and Mara's hands. The girls froze the moment they saw Maxwell, Amara's face drained of color. "I told you never to come near me again," she said quietly, her voice shaking. Maxwell raised his eyebrows. "I thought you'd be a bit more grateful. You wanted to start over, didn't you? I gave you that chance." "You destroyed my life," she snapped. "You showed me a fake DNA test to steal me from my husband. You tricked me into leaving everything behind. And when I had nothing left to give, you threw us out." The girls gripped her hands tighter. Maxwell's tone shifted, colder now. "Careful, Amara. I know things too. Things that could damage your precious reputation even more." Monica stepped in front of him. "Leave. Now." Maxwell looked around at everyone in the room, his eyes calculating. Then, with a shrug, he turned and walked away. But just before the gate closed behind him, he turned and said, "Enjoy your happy ending, Jonathan. Just know that not every story stays perfect forever." That night, after the tension settled, Jonathan sat in the girls' room, watching them sleep. Mimi had curled up close to Mara, both of them holding onto the same teddy bear Monica had given them when they arrived. He had missed 5 years of their lives, 5 birthdays, hundreds of hugs and good nights. But they were here now, safe. Behind him, Monica walked in with a blanket. "You've been sitting here a long time." Jonathan nodded. "I'm afraid." She knelt beside him. "Of what?" "That they'll wake up and disappear again, that all this," he motioned around the room, "is just a dream, that I'll go back to the bridge and find out I imagined it all." Monica reached for his hand and squeezed it. "This is real, Jonathan. You're not alone anymore." He looked at her. "Even with Maxwell showing up?" "I'm not scared of men like him," she said. "He had power once. But you have purpose." Jonathan smiled faintly. "I love you, Monica," she smiled back. "And I love you." 3 months later, Lagos buzzed with news of the wedding between Jonathan and Monica Johnson, the tech billionaire. and the once homeless engineer, who now owned one of the biggest automobile workshops in the city. Their wedding was simple but elegant, not a flashy show, but a celebration of second chances, healing, and love. Amara sat quietly in the front row, dressed in a simple gown. She had opened a boutique with the money Jonathan gave her, and had finally started piecing her life back together. She didn't smile much, but her eyes followed every moment of the ceremony. Mimi and Mara served as flower girls. Their laughter echoed through the hall as they tossed petals down the aisle, glowing with happiness. And Monica wore a fitted white gown that shimmered like the stars. Her veil was simple, her smile radiant. As she walked toward Jonathan, hand in hand with the twins, there wasn't a single dry eye in the room. Even Amara wiped a tear. A year later, baby Obinna was born. He had Jonathan's deep eyes and Monica's curious smile. The whole house seemed to come alive. Again jiggles, toys, baby bottles, and lullabies filled every corner. Monica became more than a CEO. She became a mother of three. And Jonathan, once a man broken by betrayal, was now a father, husband, and one of the most respected business owners in Lagos. People traveled from far places to visit J.M. Autotech. And sometimes, while Monica hosted conferences and tech expos, Jonathan would be under a car hood with grease on his hands, teaching young apprentices the magic of engines. But one afternoon, as Monica flipped through old photographs in her home office, a strange email landed in her inbox. Subject: confidential information regarding Maxwell and the forged DNA. Results. She opened it. Her eyes widened. Attached were scanned documents, real DNA results, voice recordings, evidence. The twins were, in fact, biologically Jonathan's all along. Monica's heart raced. She stood up and ran to find Jonathan. When he read the email, he sat back in stunned silence. So he knew, Jonathan said slowly. Even back then, he knew they were mine, and still lied. Monica touched his hand. What will you do? Jonathan looked out the window at the garden, where Mimi, Mara, and baby Obinna were playing. I already got everything I ever needed, he said. The truth is just a bonus. But Monica could see something flicker in his eyes, something unresolved. And as the sun dipped behind the skyline, casting long shadows across the house, there came another knock at the gate. The knock echoed softly through the hallway. Jonathan and Monica stood frozen in the doorway of the study, the open email still glowing on Monica's laptop screen. The truth was, Mimi and Mara had always been his biological daughters. The pain he endured, the years lost, the heartbreak of it had been built on a lie. But now, this knock. Monica looked toward the front door. You don't think... I don't know, Jonathan said quietly. But let's find out. They walked side by side, slowly, as if afraid the truth waiting outside might be heavier than the one they had just uncovered. When Jonathan opened the door, he wasn't met with Maxwell's smug grin or Amara's tearful eyes. Instead, a young woman stood there, dressed in a navy blue jacket, with a press badge clipped to her lapel. Good afternoon, she said softly. My name is Fola. I'm a journalist with The Guardian Nigeria. I apologize for coming to your home unannounced, but I believe your story deserves to be heard. Jonathan blinked. My story? Yes, Fola replied. The story of how a homeless man helped a billionaire woman with a broken car and changed both their lives. How that man went from sleeping under Oshodi Bridge to owning the most successful auto workshop in Lagos. How he became a father again, a husband, and a symbol of hope. Monica and Jonathan exchanged a surprised glance. We didn't go public with any of that, Monica said carefully. I know, Fola said, but someone anonymously sent us your wedding video and details about the garage. I've done my research. What you've both built, the lives you've touched. It's not just inspiring, it's transformative. Jonathan hesitated. Why now? Fola stepped forward slightly. Because Nigeria needs real stories. Not just celebrity gossip or political scandals. We need stories that remind people that even after deep pain, there's still healing. That even after betrayal, there's still kindness. Your story could give thousands of people hope. Monica glanced at Jonathan, who seemed lost in thought. Then he said, "Come back tomorrow. Let us think about it." Fowler nodded respectfully. "Thank you, sir." "Ma'am, I'll be in touch." As she walked away, Jonathan closed the door slowly and looked at Monica. "You think we should do it?" She smiled. "I think the world needs more Jonathans." The next morning, Monica found herself watching from the window as Jonathan tied a small apron around baby Obinna and lifted him gently onto the table in the garden. Mimi and Mara sat cross-legged on the grass, laughing as their little brother dipped his fingers into colored paint and smacked them against paper. It was art day, one of their new family traditions. Amara had moved into her own apartment in Lekki and had grown her boutique into a successful fashion store. She occasionally visited and kept her distance, respecting the new life Jonathan had built with Monica. The wounds hadn't completely healed, but there was peace, now no bitterness, just gratitude. At lunchtime, Monica sat with Mimi and Mara, helping them cut vegetables while Jonathan grilled meat outside. "Mummy Monica," Mimi said, "can I ask you something?" Monica smiled. She still melted every time they called her that. "Of course." "Did you ever feel lonely before you met Daddy?" Monica paused for a second, caught off guard by the question. "Yes, sweetheart. I did. Even with all your money?" Mara added. Monica chuckled softly. "Especially with the money. You can have a lot and still feel empty. But then, your daddy showed up, and so did both of you. You filled my life with love." The girls beamed, and Monica pulled them both into a warm hug. "I love you both, like I gave birth to you," she whispered, "and I always will." A week later, the story broke. The Guardian published the feature under the title, "From Broken Engines to Healing Hearts, the Man Who Fixed More Than Just Cars." It went viral. TV stations picked it up. Influencers reposted it. Magazines called it Nigeria's most heartfelt redemption story. Radio stations invited Jonathan for interviews. NGOs reached out, offering to sponsor training centers for young mechanics under Jonathan's mentorship. Monica's inbox was flooded, but what surprised them the most was the letter that came by mail. Handwritten, no stamp, just folded neatly in an envelope. Jonathan opened it carefully. It read, "Dear Jonathan, I was one of your former apprentices, Amika. You may not remember me, but I never forgot you. You taught me more than fixing cars. You taught me humility, discipline, and kindness. I was on the verge of joining a gang when you gave me my first job. That job changed my life. I heard what happened to you. I wept. But seeing what you've become now, I have hope again. Thank you for living your truth, even when life tried to destroy you. May your days be long. You are a light. Forever grateful, Emeka." Jonathan folded the letter and held it against his chest. "This," he whispered, "this is why I survived." 2 years later, Mimi and Mara graduated from university, both with degrees in medicine. They stood side by side, proud and glowing in their white coats. Jonathan sat in the front row with Monica and little Obinna, who clapped louder than anyone in the hall. During the graduation dinner, Amara approached Monica quietly. "Thank you," she said, voice sincere, "for loving them like your own." Monica nodded. "They are my own. I'll never forgive myself," Amara said, eyes lowering. "You don't have to," Monica replied softly. "Just keep becoming better for them." A year after that, the wedding came. Mimi and Mara had fallen in love with 2 young doctors they met during their internships. In a twist of fate, the sisters insisted on a joint wedding, double trouble wedding, they called it. On that bright Saturday morning, guests filled the flower-lined garden of the Johnson estate. There were strings of fairy lights hanging between trees, musicians playing soft Igbo love songs, and laughter in the air. But nothing was more emotional than the moment Jonathan and Monica each took a daughter's hand and began walking them down the aisle. Mimi turned to her father, her eyes glassy. "Thank you, Daddy." "For what?" he whispered. "For not giving up." On the other side, Mara looked at Monica. And thank you for being the mum who showed up when we needed one the most. Monica squeezed her hand. Always. At the end of the aisle, Amara watched them dressed in a simple green lace gown, holding a bouquet of yellow roses. She smiled through tears. Her heart ached, but it also healed. She had lost a man who always chose kindness over revenge, and he had turned pain into purpose. That night, after the music faded and the last guest left, Jonathan and Monica stood together under the stars again, just like the night he had proposed. Now older, stronger, at peace. Life came full circle, Monica whispered. Jonathan looked up at the stars, then down at her. And somehow, we're still standing. Monica rested her head on his chest. Together. And this time, there was no knock at the door, no running, just love, just family, just home. What is your view about this story? Where are you watching from? If you enjoyed this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.